Good morning and welcome to another edition of Hello, my name is Craig Carton with you. And for the next 30 minutes of frank, open, honest conversation about gambling addiction and addicts like myself. And my main man, Mr. Dan Trolaro, who joins us as always. Danny, good morning. How are you?
Great, Craig. It's been a busy week. I was down
Yes.
at Texas Tech, up at Fairfield, and college education's on full swing.
Yeah, as it needs to be. And of course, the few days, a week now after the Super Bowl, everyone's trying to kind of see the dust settle a little bit. And there's a lot going on in the gambling space, which we'll get to in just a bit. Gene joined us a couple years ago as a gambler in recovery. And always good to have updates and check-ins with people that have joined us so we can be a part of their journey as well. Gene, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, Craig. Thank you for asking.
So it's been
How are
about
you?
2.5 years since you last joined us, yeah?
Just about that.
And how is your recovery going 2.5 years later?
I am still in recovery. I
Yes.
still haven't placed a bet. Yay.
Yeah, how long has
Just
it been
for
since
today?
that last wager?
My last wager was in October of 2016.
So this will
So-
be the big 10-year anniversary for you. Congratulations. Very proud of you.
Well, thank you very much.
Just for people that may not have heard your story when you first joined us a few years ago, I'll give you a bit of a condensed version of it, but give people an idea of what was your gambling of choice and give us an idea of, at the height of it, how bad it was and how it had overtaken your life at the time.
Okay. So I am somebody who was a casino gambler.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't actually start gambling until my mid-50s officially. And I'll tell a little bit about that later. But I started gambling. It was recreational. It was a way to be out of the house, do a little bit of escape, And slowly, over the course of a year or so, I crossed that, as we say, that invisible line.
Right.
And I went from being an occasional gambler to being there weekly, daily, almost hourly.
Was
Did
there a big
not
was
see
there a
it
big
coming.
win associated with that change, or was it just, hey, I really like being here, I enjoy the flow, I enjoy the vibe? What was it?
It was all about the flow and the vibe, as you would say. I certainly won money, but it wasn't any particular win that kept me going back. It was a place for me to escape. I was a single mom. I owned my own business. There was a lot of pressure on me. I felt, whether it was, was my feelings. I don't know whether that was real or not, but I felt that. And the casino was a place I could just kind of let loose.
Let me
I wasn't a drinker, but I could enjoy myself there.
Sure. Dan, I want to bring you in on that. We talk about escapism a lot. I'm sure that's not unique to gambling addicts, but, alcoholics, drug addicts, a lot of times we're kind of running from something or hiding from something. And gambling gives us, a small respite from whatever real problems we have going on. If you had to kind of walk us through that, or if there's a percentage that you're aware of where gamblers that get in trouble start off by using gambling as a way to cope with some other issue in their lives.
I don't have the percentages, Craig, but here's what I'm going to say, is that I think about the stories that you have told. Like gambling, you were in a cocoon when you would gamble at that blackjack table. For me, September 11th was that day that kind of trapped me in my first prison, mental prison. And for me, gambling was that escape. And sometimes people escape for a few reasons, right? You don't have the tools to deal with it. Maybe you were never taught the tools on how to deal and cope with situations of life, or you don't know how to use the tools you were given. So it became a safe place to escape to, and you always say, okay, I'll deal with this problem tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and we escape again. And we just find ourselves escaping day after day because it's easier than facing a problem that we don't have a solution for, but yet gambling becomes our solution. And so, yeah, escapism is a huge part. And it's not, oftentimes we see escapism amongst the female gambling population. Historically, males tended to be the action gamblers. Females tended to be emotional escape gamblers. Those are tendencies. It shifts with sports betting now more legal and rampant. But yeah, we see escapism as all the time with gambling.
So, Gene, tell people at the height, I know you said you went from maybe monthly to weekly to daily to hourly. Give people an idea as best you can what it looked like to be you at the height of your gambling problem.
At the height of the problem, it looked like this. It was a promise to myself every morning that I was not going to gamble that day. It was the car magically driving itself to the casino. It was me sitting in the parking lot, literally crying that I did not want to go in, and then slowly convincing myself that I was just going to do the free play. I was just gonna, because, we lie to ourselves so much.
Yep.
That's all I'm going in for, and who knows, maybe with the free play, it'll be my lucky day, and then 8 hours later, I'm walking out devastated. It was awful, and unfortunately, part of my story is that I ended up, put this in quotes, borrowing money that wasn't mine, and it landed me fairly lengthy prison sentence with a lot of probation. And I'm happy to say that since we talked last, I am off paper.
Yes.
So this is
that's awesome.
That is amazing. Well, congratulations. That's well-earned and hard-earned. And I'm sure you have a great appreciation for what you went through to get to where you are today.
I really do. Where I am today is I give back to the community and as much as I can because it helps my recovery to keep it all fresh.
I want to interrupt you for a second because you said something, quote unquote, I borrowed money that wasn't mine. There's a lot of people, myself included, who made really bad financial decisions. And I know a lot of people don't understand this, and most don't even want to accept it. And I'm fine with that. I know who I am. I know what I did. I know what my mental process was when I made the decisions I made. But I want you to elaborate on that because it's very easy for an outsider to say, oh, you're a bad person, you stole money, you're a thief, and all the things that come with it. But I want you to walk people through why you put the air quotes around borrowing money and what you're legitimate and honest, looking back on it now with the clarity you have. What was really going through your mind when you made the decision to, quote unquote, borrow money that wasn't yours to gamble with it?
Well, we're going to start by calling it what it is. I called it, then I justified it to myself as borrowing,
right.
But let's face it, I took money and that's referred to as stealing.
Correct.
So in my, at the time, I would find, I was such a good customer at the casino that they would take checks from me. And of course, you write the check and you assume that you're going to win enough. You convince yourself of that you're going to be able to cover the check. And I don't, I win, but that doesn't mean I walked out. It just means I played till I was out of funds frequently, not always, but frequently. But I was telling myself that I would be able to cover the check and I couldn't. So the unfortunate thing is that I was an accountant. I had access to some other people's money. And again, the justification, the internal lying of, I'm going to pay myself in advance for something that's owed to me at the end of the month. Today, while you and I are talking, it's the 11th of the month. So that worked for the 11th, but what does it do for the 12th?
Right.
What does it do for the 13th? And sometimes the money would go back, but not in the same rate it would come out. And there was a lot of me that just couldn't wait to get caught. I felt caught in a loop that I did not know how to get out of, other than, some major win that was going to pay everything off.
Right. So the irrational thought was, I am going to pay this back. I'm going to go win tonight. I'll put the money in the account. The check will clear. Or if I took money from someone else's account that I had access to, I'm going to put it right back in the morning. Of course, you wind up losing or wagering it all. And then you wake up the next morning, you have no money, and now you're really going down a very, very bad path.
Exactly.
Was there a final day? Again, I know you joined us a few years ago, but for people that haven't heard your story, you obviously got caught and people pressed charges against you. Was there a final night of wagering that you remember vividly or no?
No, I will tell you the 4 or 5 months before my sentencing, I knew I was caught, and I kept telling myself, like, you can't go anymore. You just can't. And I could get periods of time in there. That's what I remember, the just desperate urge, the urge to, like, what's it going to hurt if I just escape one more time?
Right.
And so it slowed down, but I did not have that last binge. And, good or bad, whatever. I can't believe that that it wasn't enough to know I was caught. I needed to slow it down some other way. And then that's what happened.
And how long was your sentence and how long was the probation?
My sentence was 7 years.
Wow.
I had 10-year concurrent probation, and I was paroled at 3 years, which, for those who don't know, simply means that you're under supervision outside of prison walls, not within prison walls.
So you did 3 years in a prison, and then you did another, 7 years of probation?
I did 4 years of parole and another 3 of just probation.
So 3 locked up, 4 parole, 3 more of probation, and today you are a free woman.
I am. It's a weird feeling.
Yeah.
I've been under supervision a very long time. It's a weird feeling still.
Were you able to make the victims of the crime whole financially or not yet?
Not yet. I'm paying that restitution every month.
Got it. And you've never missed a month in those payments, I assume, correct?
I have not. That's part of what helps me. I mean, I owe it. For absolutely certain I owe it. And I hope that I'm one day able to pay them back.
Right.
Because these were people that I really did care about as my clients. They'd been my clients a long time. That said, the payment of the restitution has been able to also keep it fresh for me, because 10 years is a long time.
Sure. Have any of those people accepted your apology, or are all of them out of your life completely?
They're out of my life, unfortunately.
Got it. Dan, let me bring you in here. Look, we all made mistakes. It's nobody's fault but ours. So I don't want to sugarcoat what, Gene did, what I did, what you did. And that's a similar refrain for a lot of us, that there are people that we truly did care about that we put in harm's way. And I can't change that. Obviously, you can't change it. Gene can't change it. We can only try to live our lives the best possible manner going forward. But I want to talk to you about what you see with younger people across the country that you talk to, and the guilt that's associated with breaking the law, hurting other people emotionally and financially, and how that kind of manifests itself for a lot of the gamblers that you talk to across the country.
Yeah, and Gene will touch on this too, is like what I'm starting to see amongst college individuals, especially student athletes and even pro athletes to some degree. There are certain personality traits that we have in our life that lend themselves to addiction. Whether people they persevere, they're resilient, right? And Gene's going to talk about that in a bit too. But I'm seeing this more and more, Craig, where we're doing we're collecting data and insights after talking with college-age individuals. Are they gambling? What are they gambling on? What are they doing? Do they have friends that do it? Is it starting to impact your mental health, your sleep? Is it starting to carry a weight on your personal well-being and safety and your mental health? And we're starting to hear more and more, yes. People are starting to feel the impact of either somebody wagering on them, on their performance, or maybe they have a close family member or a friend. And if it's a close, if it's a father or a mother, that weighs on someone's mental health. And so I'm seeing this expansion of knowledge and education on gambling is so necessary, both for the financial component, but also to help people explore their own personal relationship with gambling. Craig, that's the way I always phrase it. What is your relationship with gambling? What is it with alcohol? Talk to your family. Is there a history of addiction? Start to empower yourselves to make good choices by getting the education and knowledge that you need.
Quick break on that. Dan Trolaro, Craig Carton. Gene joins us as well. This is Hello, My Name is Craig. Welcome back to Hello, My Name is Craig. Gene, I'll wrap it up with you here. You said that you've decided to pay it forward, meaning you're helping other people, I imagine, and their attempts to get into recovery. and I know you've done some work and continue to do work on the 1-800-GAMBLER hotline. What is it like for you when a phone rings and you're the gal that answers it and you hear somebody that's in a really bad place like you were 10 years ago?
The first thing that I do is thank them for making the call and being willing to take care of themselves, being willing to reach out, because we know pride gets in the way and we think, nobody will understand. We don't know what to do. So it always gives me hope that people are calling and that I hope for them, hope for, maybe society will do something about this. Who knows? I don't know. But that's the first thing, just this feeling of compassion, and glad that while I never made the call, I didn't think it was there. I didn't think there was help for me. That wasn't true. And I'm glad that I can be that help for somebody else. It's very, very emotional, not in a tragic way, but in a connective way, to be able to talk to somebody who is experiencing the problem, who's not sure if they have a problem. And I'm often saying, well, if you thought enough to make this call, the chances are you do, but we're not going to place a bet on that.
What's your relationship like with your child in relation to you having been away for a number of years in prison? And do you talk to your kid about, mommy is an addict, mommy is a compulsive gambler, or is that not a conversation you guys have yet?
It is. My children are older.
Mm-hmm.
They're at the moment they're 35 and 39. So my children are older. I'm very upfront with everything, and we talk about family history. I did not come from a family of gamblers, but there's certainly addictive behavior. We talk about how these things carry forward, and when there are questions or concerns on their part, I'm here to have an open dialogue. I think that is just so important, and I feel like they appreciate it too.
Do you feel closer to them? You feel closer to them than you ever did?
I do.
Well, look, I think it's great that you share your story. I think it's amazing that you also dedicate your time as a volunteer to 1-800-GAMBLER. And that I think it's so important when somebody does dial that number, that the voice on the other end of the phone has some level of lived experience so they understand the panic and the despair from somebody who picks up that phone. That's not an easy phone call to make. And nobody makes that phone call on a good day. That's a call you make when life is not working out the way you wanted it to do and you're desperate. So it's great that they have people like you on call 24/7, to take that call and kind of talk people off the ledge. And I'm so proud of you. Owning your mistakes, being honest with who you are and what you were as compared to who you are now. And I just think we need to tell more of these stories week in and week out. And I can't thank you enough for joining us. And it makes my heart filled with warmth that you're off government paper and you continue to do the right thing by your community and right the wrongs and the pain that you caused with an honesty that I think is lacking in a lot of people. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Craig.
Be well.
Thanks, Dean.
Dan, she was great, as she was a few years ago. I think it's great to get updates from people that we've not talked to frequently, over the 5+ years we've done the show. So I appreciate you booking her on today's episode. I do want to get into one big thing with you, and that's the prediction markets, which obviously blew up for this Super Bowl. If you take into account that in-person wagers in Nevada on the Super Bowl was just under $200 million in total, and that the predictive markets did well over $1 billion, almost 8 to 10 times as much of a handle, which obviously is all online and is nationwide, not just in one state. There's a major change happening in our country, and there's also a number of class action lawsuits now. The state of Nevada looks like they might be shutting down predictive markets. A lot of other states are now fighting against it. I know our pal Governor Christie has come up publicly against predictive markets, and I wonder, just somewhat anecdotal from you, as you travel throughout our country and recognize that the Kalshis and Poly markets and even FanDuel, DraftKings, Fanatics, BetMGM, they're all now offering a predictive market, a product. Give you an idea of what you're seeing on the ground and how popular it is, especially with the fastest growing segment of gamblers, which are young guys on college campuses.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. I actually watched the Super Bowl down in Lubbock, Texas last week, and down at Texas Tech University. And I'm sitting at a sports bar right by campus there, and the kid next to me is on call sheet, and he's a Patriots fan, and he took a beating during that game. And so it's all around us. We see it. You know, the way I always think about it is, I think back to that daily fantasy sports argument, right? Early on when fantasy sports was coming back up in the early 2010s, it's hey, it's not gambling, it's a game of skill, right? But in the same token, it doesn't matter technically what something's called, whether it's gambling or not. If you're risking something of value and you're winning something of value and there's risk or uncertainty, it constitutes a gambling behavior. And so we're seeing this rise in participation of prediction markets. The NCAA has come out very clearly and said student athletes can't do that, right? It's just another form of gambling.
Right.
And it's the newest fad, and how it lasts and how long it'll be here, who knows? But what we do know is we have to acknowledge it. As a company at IC360, we acknowledge things, and we see it's here. So we're going to do our part also to keep people safe, whether it's sports betting, fantasy sports, prediction markets, no matter what it might be. It's always important that we address these things because on college campuses, Craig, I'm hearing Call Sheet and Robinhood more and more frequently over the past year than I ever have before.
Well, just think about this. You watched the Super Bowl in Lubbock, Texas, because you're speaking at Texas Tech. You cannot legally wager in the state of Texas.
Correct.
But you can use the predictive market sites to wager. So that's the first thing. The second thing, of course, is that it is an unregulated platform. So if I have inside information, I can now legally, because it's unregulated, wager on information that is not public. And that's why I had such a big problem with the NBA and the NBA PA allowing Giannis of the Milwaukee Bucks, to do an endorsement deal with Kalshi, and he announced it the day after the trading deadline and the NBA came to a stop. And I'm not saying Giannis did anything untoward, but the fact that he was rumored to be traded, there was like $47 million wagered on all those sites combined. And the question was, is Giannis going to get traded or not? Well, Giannis is a spokesperson, and I think he even has some equity in the company. And he obviously could have legally made millions of dollars of wagers that he was not going to get traded, something that he, had inside information on and in theory could have controlled. And that would not have been, quote unquote, insider trading. He would not have been afoul of the law. And it would have been just fine and dandy for him to profit off the information that nobody had. How that's kosher to a professional sports league is mind-boggling to me.
And I think we're going to see very quickly there's going to be companies that get involved from that perspective, from a safety, well-being, integrity monitoring perspective. Craig, I'll take it one step further. I was talking to law enforcement last week, and one of their concerns is that in these predictive markets, there have been contracts that you can buy whether or not someone who has killed somebody will be caught before a certain date. And you can wager on the outcomes of society. When you were starting to find ourselves going down that rabbit hole, Craig, I mean, that's a hard one. Like, nothing is safe. Everything can be up for contract wagering.
Well, it's funny you say that because I just saw a story this morning how there are people wagering on the outcome of this Savannah Guthrie's mom situation, the kidnapping out in Arizona. And I'm like, how sick you have to be to wager money on the outcome of somebody's life? And it's not regulated. Horrible. No one stops it. The predictive markets don't take it down and refund everybody their money. And they get great joy out of it. But I do think before next football season starts, I do not think those markets are going to exist from a sports betting perspective. I think they will exist, and you can wager on all non-sporting type of events. But I do think states like Texas, states like California, and the other 10 states that have not legalized online wagering in their states are going to come down very heavy on those companies, and you're not going to be allowed to do it there. And then my gut after that is we're going to see a complete stoppage of predictive markets from a sports wagering standpoint.
Well, I have, and it's interesting you say that because I kind of see it as ironic that we fought, the states fought so hard to get PASPA repealed, right? In 2018, PASPA gets repealed, and now 8 years later, we're now coming back to a national model of prediction contracts.
Right.
And so now here we are again now where it's a CFTC regulated or CFTC kind of governed, and it's across all 50 states. It's going to be interesting. I don't necessarily know that I agree with that. I think it's going to evolve, especially now that we see DraftKings and FanDuel getting into the mix. It's going to be an interesting year, I'll tell you that much. No doubt about it.
Yep. Well, look, we're flat out of time, but obviously appreciate you coming on. This is a conversation that is not going away for a long time. Like I said, there are some class action suits in a number of states right now to try to prevent it. People that were intimately involved in it becoming legal in New Jersey almost 10 years ago now are against it, and it's not going away. Like you said, when billions of dollars are being traded on sports, the outcome of sporting events, you have to take notice of that. When it outdoes Nevada by a 10x number, you have to take notice of it. So I think in very short order, this is going to become a very big topic in Washington, D.C. and every state capital. So we'll see how it plays itself out. Always appreciate you. We'll do it again next week. That's Dan Trolaro. I'm Craig Carton, and thank you so much for listening to Hello, My Name is Craig.